Happy together in the word Thursday. How we doing? How we doing, folks? It has been raining in Atlanta for what the reality of it is like 3 days, but what it feels like is three eternities. Long time. Long time. We are coming off of Memorial Day weekend, which was so fabulous. My husband and I did literally nothing. Well, this is actually kind of funny. We went to a farmer's market on Saturday and we did not know. We like were so excited. This was one of those farmers markets that had so much stuff that we were, like things you would never get at your local Publix or Walmart or Whole Foods or wherever you get your groceries, Trader Joe's. It was like all this cool stuff. And we didn't realize that you could only, um, get your groceries with a debit card or cash, which we had neither of those things on us. We only had our credit card. So we had to leave all of our groceries. We were those people, like, we had to leave all of them at the front of the line or whatever have you, and it was embarrassing, I'm not gonna lie. I think for both Hunter and I, we never wanna be a bother. That's, like, I think something which I actually really appreciate about my husband, and I appreciate about myself. Like, I think we never wanna inconvenience people. That's, like, our number one thing, whether it's we don't wanna inconvenience your time, we don't wanna inconvenience your schedule. Like, I think that's just kinda how both him and I operate, and so we felt so bad because we were such an inconvenience because we have, like, all these groceries and we can't pay for them, so we just had to, like, leave them there, and all we could think about was we held people up in line, and we inconvenienced the workers because they were trying so hard to think of solutions, and then ultimately we had to leave everything there, and the workers were in charge of putting it all back, and we were just like, "Ugh." This is hitting on one of our biggest insecurities, which is like we don't want to inconvenience people. But all that to say, great weekend. We were literally in bed by like 8 o'clock last night. It was fabulous. That is where I'm at in life. If I can be in bed by like 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm a happy girl. I'm a happy girl. All right, let's get in the word. Recently, I told you guys this last week, but I have been so intentional on trying to fight the good fight of like doing whatever God has called you to do with all your heart and finding delight in it. Um, and I think like a week of doing that solidly, I've just realized how many times I don't do something with all my heart because I'm comparing myself or I'm thinking about what my life should look like in my terms or in my eyes or where I should be by now. And it is so cool for that exposure and that recognition, because when you don't know, um, when you don't know how often you do something, the first step towards, like, correction and repentance is is being aware that you're doing that thing. And so I really encourage you, like, if you're someone like me that can fall prey to the trap of comparison or can fall prey to um, feeling like your life is less than other people's because it doesn't look a certain way or because it does look a certain way or whatever that is. Or maybe you fall prey to like, I should be here by now. I should be doing this by now. The reality of it is, God is in charge of outcomes. So when you give your heart to whatever it is God has called you to do, that honors him. And then trust him with the outcome. I'm in First Peter right now in like my Bible time, my morning time. And when I get in the word myself, I'm in First Peter. And I was so struck today by this idea of like, humble yourselves before the Lord, and in due time, like he will lift you up. He will lift you up. He will determine the outcome. Your job is nothing more than to humble yourselves before the Lord. And then it goes on to explain how you do that. And it's by casting your cares to him. Cast your cares to him. So do you want that promotion? Do you want to be in a certain area of life? Do you want a husband? Do you want children? Like, tell him that. Give him that. Cast on your cares to him. But remember who you're talking to. You're talking to the God who is Lord above all. So essentially, his plans for you are better than your biggest dreams for yourself. And if we can submit to that and be humble to that and do whatever God has called us to do today with all our heart, he will be faithful. He will be faithful. It might not be faithful to our vision, but he'll change our hearts to appreciate his vision for our life, which is always, again, so much better for our life. So with that, let's get the word. Okay, we're cruising. It's Genesis 13. We have been in this. How long have we been doing together in the word? I don't know. But we're in Genesis 13. We are rocking and rolling. Okay. So Abram, still Abram, not Abraham. So Abram went up from Egypt, remember, went to Canaan. Then there was a famine, went to Egypt. He told them his wife was his sister. Then they got mad because the Lord like struck them all. And so then he was like, okay, I got to get out of Egypt. Now Abram has all the stuff that Pharaoh gave him in Egypt. So Abram went out from Egypt. He had to leave Egypt into the Negev. He took his wife and all his possessions with him, as well as Lot. Remember, Lot is Abram's nephew, I believe, right? Yeah, his nephew. Now, Abram was very wealthy in livestock, silver, and gold. So, God used for good Abram's screw up, which was basically him going to Egypt without praying to the Lord about it and then lying to Pharaoh. Lord knows he didn't talk to God about that because he would have heard a big conviction sandwich in his spirit by saying, don't lie. But he did anyways. He lied. He said his wife was a sister, so he wouldn't get killed. Pharaoh took his wife, Sarai, as his own. And then before they could consummate the marriage, God basically like broke that stuff up and Pharaoh was like, why did you do this? Sent Abram and Sarai out, but had all this wealth with him that Pharaoh gave him. So even Abram's screw up, God used for good because Abram was blessed leaving Egypt with all this stuff. It says his wife, his possessions, Lot, and and a ton of livestock, silver and gold. Okay. He journeyed from place to place, from the Negev as far as Bethel. He returned to the place where he had pitched his tent at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. This is the place where he had first built the altar, and there Abram worshiped the Lord. Many of us can relate to feeling so close to the Lord. Y'all, my nose is so itchy right now, and I don't know why. I promise I'm not like picking my nose on this podcast. It's just itchy. So let that be neither here nor there. But Abram in 12, the beginning of 12, the Lord blesses Abram. Go out from your country, your relatives, your father's household to the land I will show you. Then I'll make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I'll make your name great. Then Abram goes to Canaan. He stops. He builds an altar. He worships the Lord. I think it just started raining again. He worships the Lord. And then a famine happens. And then he goes to Egypt. Doesn't really talk to God. Lies. Leaves Egypt. You'd think in that place, the place of the screw up, the place where even after Abram screwed up, he was blessed with all his wealth. One would think he would worship the Lord for getting him out. It says in 12:17, but the Lord struck Pharaoh and his household with severe diseases because of Sarai. One would think that's when Abram would worship God. That's when he would say, thank you. Thank you for getting me out of Egypt. Thank you for all this livestock and silver and gold. Like, Lord, 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 thank you. But that's not what we read. That's not where we read. It says, then Abram journeyed from place to place, from the Negev as far as Bethel. How far is Negev from Bethel? From Negev to Bethel is about 88 miles. So Abram is literally walking miles. This isn't a car ride. This isn't like I'm in my Mazda, whose name is Maeve, after my favorite Pilates trainer, and I'm driving 88 miles. This is I'm walking, and I've got herds, and I've got people, and it's like they're slow walking. They're not hot girl summer power walking. They are slow walking, and they're going from place to place, from the Negev as far as Bethel, 88 miles. Have you ever been in a position where maybe because of your shame or because of your sin, you felt so far from God? It wasn't the initial sin of lying, in this case, Abram, of lying. It was the separation after the sin that haunted him the most, that led him to go from place to place and not worship God, from place to place, and he's just traveling. And then somehow, because of God's mercy, he ends up where he started. And there, Abram worshiped the Lord. It said this was the place where he had first built the altar. Remember, the altar was built after God gave Abram the blessing. And it says there, where the first altar was built, Abram worshiped the Lord. See, sometimes I think we can relate in life to messing up or screwing up, and it causes us to walk these 88 miles of uncertainty. For some of us, that's we go to people we weren't supposed to. We go to places we weren't supposed to. We do things we normally wouldn't do just because we already feel far from God. So how much further from God can I get? But then we remember. It's these moments of like, wait, but I remember the last thing God told me. And it literally, it's like it just zaps our system. Have y'all ever done the cold plunge? I have a sauna therapy thing that I go to, and it has like your infrared sauna, and then it has a cold plunge in the same room. It's phenomenal. Highly recommend. That makes me sound so bougie. I don't have a gym membership. I do like Pilates on my phone on YouTube. And so this is my gym membership, is the sauna ice plunge. I don't do the ice plunge. I had to do the ice plunge when I was a college athlete. And the first, it's like a shock to the system. You're like, oh. And that's what I imagine here is Abram ended up at the place where he started. All this time, it almost seemed like, have you ever been where you feel like I just wasted all that time because of my mistakes, because of my wrongdoing? I would be so much further along right now if I didn't screw up like I had. Maybe you didn't even realize you screwed up until the minute you realized you screwed up and you're like, I wasted, in Abram's case, 88 miles. I wasted years. I wasted days. All these days I could have been serving the Lord, loving the Lord, been walking with the Lord. That's why when people are like, if Jesus is all forgiving, what's the point of like accepting him as my king now and following all these rules? Why not just have a blast and then accept him as my Lord and then get into heaven? It's because the treasure isn't getting into heaven. The treasure is Jesus himself, and he's available to us right now as we live. The Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven. Jesus is with you now. And the treasure is getting to walk with him today. Who wants to wait to walk with Jesus? Not me. I want to walk with him as long as I possibly can, because it's not about behavior modification or following a bunch of rules. It's about the fact that the King of the universe loves us so much. We have access to him today, and we want to walk with him today, and he loves us today. And even if you've screwed up or messed up or gone on this 88-mile detour like Abram, God can still use it for good. And he'll sometimes use those things for good, like he had livestock, silver and gold, and his wife still, and his life still. Sometimes he'll use it for good so that you can see he was God over it. But then he'll always get you to a place where you realize none of that, it all pales in comparison to God himself. See, Abram had wealth. He had his wife. He had probably what I imagine was his dream of having. His definition of success he was wealthy, he had family, he had Lot, he had his wife, he had all the things other than a son that he would have deemed as successful. But I think when he went back to the first place he built with the altar and he saw that altar and he remembered the God that spoke to him. He remembered the God that called him out. He remembered the God who's with him even when he didn't feel him. He remembered the God that uses all things for good. He remembered that God that said, "I will make you a great nation and I will bless you and I will make your name great so that you exemplify divine blessing and I will bless those who bless you. But the one who treats you lightly, I must curse. So all the families of the earth may receive blessing through you." When Abram remembered, he couldn't help but worship the Lord because the gold, the silver, the livestock, the things that in this day and age represented security and wealth and notoriety and dignity and status, it wasn't God. And when Abram saw that altar, I think he remembered God, God. Yeah, that that's what I'm missing. The first time I built this altar, all I had was my wife and my nephew. I wasn't wealthy, I wasn't rich, but I just had one word from God, and it made me build this altar to worship. It moved my soul so much. Now I have wealth, and it's nothing without the Lord. How many of us confuse blessing with wealth and blessing with things and blessing with status and fame and notoriety? Abram had that. He had that. Wasn't enough. Will Smith has a quote. It's, "I wish everybody could get rich and famous so they could understand that's not the answer." He actually has this whole theory, which is like, when you're poor, at least you have the benefit of believing fame, money is the answer to your problem. But when you've got all these things and you realize you're still screwed up and you've still got this gaping hole, you can begin to feel hopeless because you've got everything that the world says is supposed to fix that, but it's not fixing you. And I think Abram realized here, oh crap, it's the Lord. It's always been the Lord. That he is the answer. So how many of us, like Abram, we're trying to slap band-aids on these gaping holes that only God can fill with himself? And here, when Abram saw that altar, I can just imagine the emotion of, I forgot. He is the whole point. Him. He is my security. He gives me my worth. He gives me my status. He gives me a rank. He gives me a notoriety. He gives me my blessing. He makes my name great, not these things that I've accumulated. Sometimes Sometimes our story is we had a Pharaoh in our life and God struck him down and we turned to the Lord. But most of the time, our story is God did something great in our life and then we kind of forgot about it and we kept wandering and we kept searching. Like maybe you were literally on your knees fasting to get this job out of college. You're like, no one's getting a job out of college. The job market sucks. Lord, please give me a job. Please give me a job. And then you got it. And then you kind of forgot about it. And all of a sudden your job became your God. And you roamed and roamed and roamed 88 miles later in this job ecosystem of trying to be good enough and get other people's approval. And then you go back home to your parents' home where you look in the prayer closet where you were once praying for the job to the God that gave you the job, and then you replaced your job with the one you worship over the God who you used to worship that got you the job in the first place. And you look at that prayer closet and you go, I forgot that God's the whole point, not the things he can do for me, but just him. Sometimes we find that place at rock bottom, like in Job. the story of Job, which we will get to, God took away all of his wealth. He took away his children. Well, excuse me, the enemy attacked Job, but with God's permission, which that'll be a whole thing we have to unpack. But at rock bottom, Job was stripped of everything the world would consider blessing, and he saw the Lord. And he realized the Lord is the only thing I need. And Job saw that when he was at a lack of anything earthly valuable. But then you see someone like Abram here who has everything earthly valuable, and he still says, God's all I need. He went back to where he had first built the altar, and there Abram worshiped the Lord. So whether you're in a place where you're rock bottom and you're like, I've got nothing, this God, this Jesus Christ, he seems like a pretty good dude. Let me look into him. God will meet you there. Your story can also be, I had everything. I had money. I had options. I had security. I had financial, physical, mental, emotional, and relational security. And it still wasn't good enough. And I was still anxious, and I was still freaked out, and I still felt not good enough, and I still felt inadequate, and I still freaked out about the future. And nothing could satisfy my appetite of addiction to worry. And God met me. Everyone's story looks different. The point is that it points back to the God that is above all. There's no equation for God moving in your life. It's just an open and willing heart. My question to you is, where are your altars? Where are those places? Like, where are you right now that you forgot? You forgot to praise God for getting you this car you're driving in, or granting you I just hiccuped, I'm sorry, the help to do the elliptical workout you're doing as you listen to this. Have you set a place, a marker to remember the things the Lord has done? Because let me tell you this, and I'll lead this back into what we talked about in the beginning. Something that's been on my heart a lot. I've got dreams, y'all. I've got dreams. There's so many things I want to do. But back to that, like Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 through 24. But whatever you do, do with all your heart, because you're serving the Lord, not human masters. I was just thinking, why would God trust me? Like, let's say God, I was talking to him today and he was like, yep, every one of your dreams is going to come true. Why would God trust me with those dreams if he can't trust me to steward the things he's given me today? My tech sales job, Together in the Word Thursdays, my social media, my health, my relationships, my marriage, actually praying for people when I say I will. Why would God trust me with anything else if he can't trust me to steward this with all my heart? And I think some of us were so busy trying to get to the next thing, we have not taken into consideration the previous things God's done in our life, the previous faithfulness he's already shown to us. If he said it, won't he do it? Where are your altars? And then taking into account where we are currently and being faithful to that today. I can live for tomorrow because I know my God lives today. I know he's been faithful in the past because I have this like God Moments Google Doc where I take into consideration like all of these things that he's done in my life. And I need to review it more often, but that's my altars. I go back to the last faith. Like if I'm questioning if God's going to be faithful to me in the future, I go back to the last time he was faithful. Where are your altars? Where do you keep track? Maybe it's a prayer closet. Maybe it's a song. Maybe it's a Google Doc like me. And then also, are you being faithful to what God's trusted you with today? Are you? Dear Lord, I pray for every single person under the sound of my voice. I pray that they love you more than anything else in their life. I pray for the thing that I don't know to ask for on behalf of them, nor do they know what to ask for, but you know that they specifically need. Maybe it's strength. Maybe it's forgiveness. Maybe it's grace or mercy. Maybe it's creativity. Maybe it's renewed energy, a renewed spirit, a renewed enthusiasm. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's just a good night of sleep because they keep waking up in the middle of the night. Under the sound of my voice, in Jesus' name, I pray for them, Lord, that they do whatever you've called them to do today with all of their heart, and they remember your previous faithfulness and set an altar there that they can worship you for the days to come.